Greetings, friends and fellow seekers. This is a video response to a response from at Better Than Columbo on YouTube, who, in response to my talk about appetites, experiences, conscious wish, and serpent power, said, "Hey, Paul, do you think the goal is to clear your mind during meditation and not think?" Aquino wrote somewhere that he doesn't meditate in the sense of trying to clear the mind of active thought. He said he would just end up falling asleep or finding an itch to scratch. Well, first of all, the short answer is no. The aim of meditation is not to not think or the stopping of thought. The aim is there's different ways. There's not really a short answer for this. The aim is along the lines of stillness, watchfulness, attention to sensation in the body, attention to breath, watching of the breath. There's an ancient Sanskrit term, samadhi, to represent the sort of change that takes place when attention becomes strong enough to remain with the stillness, with the watchfulness, with the attention. There's also terminology for this found amongst the writings of the Desert Fathers in works like the Philokalia, where Saint Hesychios talks about a stillness of the heart, or there's also the term theosis, and these are not references to thought or what you're thinking about. So thinking about stillness and thinking about watchfulness is not the same thing as actually experiencing it. The state that meditation can bring us to is more of a whole body state of being sort of thing that we're aiming for. Now, anyone who tries practicing meditation, even for a little bit, you quickly learn that the thoughts do not simply stop on their own. And this is something that is sometimes referred to as the stream of associations. We like to think of it as, oh, I'm thinking and coming up with very lofty intellectual ideas and stuff like that. But one of the things we learn through meditation is that this stuff up here is just a bunch of associations that is constantly churning, constantly rolling around, and often it's influenced by external impressions, and it's finding responses to and reactions to what's going on in the outside world. But what happens during meditation is we kind of shut down that connection with the outside world and bring attention inwardly to sensation, to stillness, and these sorts of things. And when we do this, the stream of associations does not stop. It continues to go. But what we can learn to do is not get caught up in it and pulled into it. And when we start doing that, and this attention to sensation can provide sort of an anchor to help us from getting caught up in that stream of associations. Because why do you want to get caught up in the stream of associations? That's what you spend all of your everyday life like. That's why we have no attention, why we're pulled this way and that, why the different personality facets of ego take control of the ship, based on really just the random chaos of life. So why would you go through extra effort to delve into a system which just further gets you caught up in here? And when we start to make some little successes towards remaining anchored and grounded in the sensation of being, in attention to our inner world, then what we find is that that stream keeps rolling on, but we're not a part of it. So then arises the question, what is that? There's something in me that observes, that sees that. It's not getting caught up in it. There's something within me that watches, and I want to make an effort to try and stay with that. So as you can see from this, there's a lot of different ways of articulating this experience of meditation and everything that's encompassed by that. Even the word meditation has a lot of baggage with it in our culture. Many people do mean by the term meditation, oh, just focusing the mind on some image or some idea or something like that. And there may be some value in that, but what I try to encourage and what I wrote about in the book Second Awakening is coming to this deeper level of sensation and inner attention, which, if practiced over time, over a significant amount of time, eventually leads us to some more inner changes that occur that we really can't validate or verify or really even understand until we actually get to that point ourselves. Which brings me back to what Better Than Columbo said about what Dr. Aquino said, which is, again, Aquino wrote somewhere, he doesn't meditate in the sense of trying to clear the mind of active thought. He said he would just end up falling asleep or finding an itch to scratch. So I don't know where this quotation is actually from, but it sounds generally true based on my experience of working in that TOS system at one point in my life and knowing Dr. Aquino directly, that no, he didn't see any value in meditation. But what he says here, which again sounds true, I just end up falling asleep or finding an itch to scratch. That's actually what everyone says or experiences the first time they try meditation or flirt with it or give some kind of effort to a total stillness and silence practice. Everyone finds that their mind wanders, or else they're pulled into sleep, or else they start finding an itch that makes you want to move and break your stillness. Actually, if you read Secret of the Golden Flower, which my book Second Awakening is largely based on, they talk about all these things in there. The ancients all know about it. If you read the Philokalia, the ancient Greek and Egyptian desert fathers, they all knew about these things. That is ancient knowledge. And the secret is this, is that if you persist, not just in that one meditation session, your first attempt at it, but if you continue on a daily basis to have a stillness and silence practice and try and have it around the same time every day, what you discover is that you don't fall asleep. Your body learns, oh, we're not going to sleep now. Your body learns to not have itches everywhere. The itches, no, it goes away. the constant needing to shift and not being able to find your proper position, that goes away. You settle into the proper position much faster. And as well, you become more accustomed to that stream of associations running, and you become more able to not get caught up in it. Um, so it's kind of like if you're a kid and you decided you wanted to play baseball, and you go, the very first time you try and do baseball, you like you strike out like 3 times in a row, and and a lot of kids do this, throw down the bat. I'm not good at baseball, I'm never going to do this again. So that's how many people respond to meditation. They just kind of half-assedly try it once, and it doesn't immediately result in like fireworks. And so they say, yeah, no, that's not my thing. And especially, coming from the occultism source, which this comment about Dr. Aquino is clearly coming from, and immediately we will go to, oh well, it's much easier to just go and do some sorcery spell or ritual, to try and accomplish some goal in the world, or even some ceremonial thing to try and like make my consciousness like get better. And the problem with that is that it leaves all this room for your imagination to come in and say, oh yeah, it really worked. Or sometimes to go back in time and say, oh well, I didn't really want specifically that, I had a deeper wish under it, and so that's like being fulfilled for it. And so just going right into the ceremonial magic mode immediately like takes us into this realm which validates a stream of association. It props it up. It allows our imagination to come in and say, oh, everything's great. Yeah, we're really more conscious than other people. So I mean, all of this is very problematic because it also takes you into this, comparing yourself to other people, which is like what Gurdjieff called consideration, which is another thing that really prevents us experiencing self-awareness, self-remembering, or gaining anything permanent from us. But getting back to the baseball analogy, um, as we all know, the people who are good at baseball, they did it a lot. Okay. And maybe they weren't perfect at it the first day they tried it. Certainly most of them weren't, but they kept trying. They had good days or bad days. And what happens? You build up muscles for it, right? You build up musculature, which makes you a better batter or a better catcher or whatever. But also, you build up strength in your attention. If you play baseball at all, it's like the coach is yelling at you about paying attention. Keep your mind on the ball. Keep your mind on the ball, your attention on the ball, not your attention, getting pulled up here into the stream of associations, like, oh, what does everyone think about me? What if I don't make this next hit? Blah, blah, blah. Taking it to the realm of imagination and worry and self-doubt, but to just be present there and watching that ball and ready to see how the situation changes. So as you're practicing meditation, you're building up not just the muscles from stillness, muscles in the abdomen and in the shoulders and stuff, which help support a different kind of breath to get involved. But you're also exercising and strengthening your attention to remain focused on this. And you're also strengthening the ability of this higher force, that which observes, that which is sometimes called the silent witness, to emerge and to watch. And at that point, you're entering into the state of watchfulness, spoken of by many of the great teachers and prophets. And a final note is that the what I've called in the past the founding fathers of the LHP, Aquino, LeVay, and some others, never, none of them ever practiced meditation sincerely, and all of them philosophically, theologically, politically, really just dismissed all Eastern systems at the same time that they dismiss all Christianity and so-called right-hand path systems. Just en masse, they just like release them all. Dr. Aquino had famously spoken of how all of them lead to self-obliteration, and that's not entirely an accurate way of talking about it. The core of, and now there are also lots of westernized, churchified versions of all of the Eastern religions, which might talk about obliteration in a very direct way. And of course, when all these LHP people dismissed all of these systems, they weren't dismissing the core idea. They were dismissing the church versions of it. They were dismissing the mass organized religion, westernized, academic pop culture versions of these religions, which often really do totally miss the kernel of truth held within them. So when they dismiss these, saying that it leads to self-obliteration, well, what they're really talking about is obliteration of the ego, not the self, but the ego. And the ego really is the same thing as what Ouspensky talks about as the multiple personalities that we experience. That's really the realm of the ego. And yeah, the work does lead us towards seeing that the ego is really just made up. That's not the thing that you're born with, that you come into the world with. You come into the world with your essence, which is your physical presence and your eye color and your skin color and your DNA. That's what you come into the world with. The ego is something that you acquire and develop. And one of the things that meditation can take us to, and separating from the stream of associations can take us to, is the realization that the ego is just made up. It's all just made up and manufactured by us. We manufacture it to help us interact with the outside world better, and a lot of it is very reactionary. And all of that reactionary experience is just based on the law of accident. It's based on the accident of where we were born, who we were born to, where we went to school, what kind of crowd we fell in with, yada da da da. So when this idea of different ways they talk about obliteration of the self, or often more it's talked about like realization of one's own unity with God, all that is being lost to obtain that is the false ego, the false sense of self. That's all that we're trying to get rid of. But of course, if you're trying to sell people on a left-hand path religion and you've decided that everything else is right-hand path and you're trying to sweep it away, then, oh, it's going to obliterate yourself. That's a great way to sweep it away and also justify why you're not going to look into it any further and why other people shouldn't look into it any further. Ultimately, I'm not recommending to anyone to go look into any system further, but rather to look into the self further. And the way to do that in earnestly and effectively is through stillness and watchfulness and silence practice. So if you tried meditation once and it didn't work out for you, my advice is to try again and try and set a regular program for it. And I don't have advice on where you get the will or the wish to do that, but there is some kind of very deep wish that I think we all have within us. Everyone who finds himself on some path or some way has that wish deeply buried within them. And sometimes that wish gets subverted into the temptation of power through sorcery. But I think that wish is probably still in there somewhere. And that needs to be reconnected with. It needs to be felt. There needs to be a feeling that arises with it, usually somewhere in the solar plexus. So that can be a good place to focus on in your meditation. Just focus on the solar plexus. Just focus on holding your sensation there and your feeling in there. And just be present with that part of yourself. So thank you at Better Than Columbo for the great question, which allowed me to talk for about 15 minutes longer than I initially expected. So until next time, be still, be watchful, and keep the inner fire burning.